The Egyptian-Arab joint statement on Gaza rejects violations of Palestinians' rights through settlement, displacement or expulsion. Egypt receives injured Palestinians at Rafah for urgent medical treatment. And Israel releases 183 Palestinian detainees today. Hello there, good afternoon. It's 4 o'clock Cairo local time and you're watching Q News. We begin today's bulletin with the latest developments on Gaza. Cairo has hosted an Arab ministerial meeting to reject the displacement of Gaza residents. The meeting reflects Egypt's firm stance on Palestine, with President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi emphasizing Egypt's rejection of forced displacement as a threat to national security. El-Sisi reaffirmed Egypt's commitment to a two-state solution and the historic rights of Palestinians, warning that international inaction could lead to further instability. Egypt is calling for unified Arab action to prevent forced displacement and uphold Palestinian sovereignty. The Egyptian-Arab joint statement has emphasized the rejection of any violation of these inalienable rights of Palestinians, whether through settlement activities, displacement, home demolition, land annexation, or efforts to expel the inhabitants from their land through forced displacement. The Egyptian-Arab joint statement reaffirmed support for Palestinian resilience and rights under international law. It warns that actions threatening regional stability and peace undermine prospects for coexistence. The statement commends Egypt, Qatar and the United States for securing the ceasefire and detainee exchange. It calls for Israel's full withdrawal from Gaza, opposes partitioning, advocates for Palestinian Authority control over Gaza, the West Bank and East Jerusalem, and urges international cooperation for Gaza's reconstruction. Egypt has begun receiving injured Palestinians through the Rafah border crossing for medical treatment in its hospitals. Our correspondent from our sister news channel, Al Qahira News, reported that Egypt is preparing to admit 50 wounded individuals from Gaza along with 53 accompanying relatives. With the ceasefire in effect, hospitals in North Sinai are ready. A medical team is stationed at Rafah, while Palestinian media confirm that critically ill patients, including children with cancer and heart conditions, are en route for urgent care. The Israeli army has received the third detainee in the fourth detainee exchange under the Gaza ceasefire. Earlier, Hamas handed over Keith Siegel, an elderly American citizen, to the Red Cross. Shortly before that, two other detainees, Yarden Baibas and Ofer Calderon, were transferred. The Israeli military confirmed their arrival and immediate medical evaluation. As part of this exchange, 183 Palestinian detainees are also being released. Israeli occupation authorities have released the fourth batch of Palestinian detainees today as part of the detainee exchange deal under the ceasefire agreement in Gaza. According to the Palestinian Commission for Detainees and Ex-Detainee Affairs and the Palestinian Prisoners Society, 183 detainees were released, including 111 from the Gaza Strip, who were detained after October 7, 2023. Ahead of the release, Israeli forces declared the area near Offa prison a closed military zone, preventing families from gathering to welcome their loved ones. The soldiers further fired sound bombs towards them. Hamas has urged pressure on Israel to uphold humanitarian protocols without delay or evasion, emphasizing that today's fourth exchange is a testament to its values and commitment to the agreement. They added that despite harsh conditions, Hamas ensured medical care for the American-Israeli detainee, while Israel continued its abuses against Palestinian detainees. The International Red Cross spokesperson for the Middle East has highlighted the urgent need to address critical gaps in Gaza's relief operations. She added that Gaza's healthcare system has been fully destroyed, leaving hospitals unable to function. The International Red Cross spokesperson for the Middle East said that, in collaboration with the Palestinian Red Crescent, the Red Cross is working to support Gaza's residents and establish a field hospital for medical care. She also emphasized that increased international support and commitments are needed to ensure aid reaches those in need, especially as Gaza's infrastructure remains severely damaged. And for more on this, we cross over to our newsroom where Selma Marwan is waiting for us. Selma.
For further analysis on the current situation in Gaza, we're joined from Cairo by Al-Ahram Managing Editor Ashraf Abulhul. Mr. Ashraf, thank you so much for joining us on Qnews. And can you elaborate on Egypt's stance regarding the forced displacement of Gaza residents and its implications for regional security?
Egypt's stance is clear and crystal, and it's not new. It's a historic stance that since 1948, Egypt has decided to sponsor the Gaza Strip to prevent it from the displacement. And since the withdrawal of the Egyptian and Southern following the strip back, and they've seen that the Israeli raids to attack the Palestinians in Gaza, so they took decision to stay in Gaza to prevent the displacement throughout. Egypt wouldn't announce more details, despite that it was exposed to several pressures and lurings in accepting the Palestinian refugees. Since too many years, Israel proposed a plan of exchange lands with Egypt to increase the Gaza space directing to Arish. In return, Egypt is to gain peace in the Al-Naqb, but Egypt had rejected to give this land to the Palestinians. It is their right and do not approach the land. With the Israeli rejections following the 7th of October, Egypt has discovered simply that Egypt intended to displace the Palestinians, therefore announced this stance and the called upon of Cairo Convention for Peace, and reaffirmed that by the 30s of the world leaders their rejections of displacement and the pressure upon Palestinians by deprive them from food, fuels and medications, and the closure of Gaza to displace the people. Egypt stand continued in that pattern unless in the 19th of the current state.
Sir, sorry for cutting in, but in light of Egypt hosting the Arab ministerial meeting, if you could expand more on how the Egyptian leadership, particularly President El-Sisi, emphasized the importance of maintaining Palestinian territorial integrity.
There is an Egyptian-Arab coordination collaboration in Jordan, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and United Arab Emirates, and the State of Qatar, all without any exception consents to reject the displacement. The meeting that Cairo is going to host affirms that Egypt is capable to mobilize the Arab stances supporting the legitimate Palestinian rights, and the Arab refusal of displacing the Palestinian. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi rejected such a proposal and informed the Americans, and Egypt is going to pursue its stances and its ways to rejecting the displacement of the Palestinian based on the two-state solutions on the lines of 1967, Eastern Jerusalem as with its capital.
Now, shedding light on the Egyptian-Arab joint statement regarding Israel's withdrawal from Gaza, what are the key points emphasized in it?
Is highlighting and reaffirming the Palestinian cause that should be resolved by gaining the rights of the Palestinian rights. So we pursued the peace and we accepted the presence of Israel adjacent to the Palestinian, and this did not give the Palestinian the right to eliminate the aspirations of the Palestinian people. All knows the United Nations, UN Security Council, international community's stance in supporting the legitimate rights of the Palestinian people. Therefore, the Arab stances resulted from the meeting. It is natural that affirming the reality that Israel wish not to believe that the whole world is rejecting the displacement of the Palestinian people by Israel, and the whole world is condemning the Israeli aggression through the UN Security Council supported the establishment of the Palestinian state.
Now, regarding the humanitarian aspect, how does Egypt's involvement in humanitarian efforts, such as receiving injured Palestinians at the Rafah border, reflect its broader role in Gaza?
Certainly, Egypt, since the end of the aggression and the beginning of launching the humanitarian aid that send in great quantities of the humanitarian aid trucks. And today Egypt is receiving the injured Palestinian to provide them the health care. Egypt prepared tens of the vested ambulances before the Rafah crossing to receive all the cases, and has thousands of Egyptian physicians prepared to enter Gaza and to contribute and provide the remedies for the Palestinian injured people. Egyptian physicians and doctors are very prepared to receive them.
Now, Egypt has always stressed that the two-state solution is the only solution. How does Egypt's commitment to a two-state solution align with its diplomatic efforts in Gaza?
The two-state solution is a principle the whole world had consensus and acknowledged. Nations along with the League of Arab States have all agreed upon. Therefore, Egypt is going to pursue the principle of two-state solution and establishment of the Palestinian people on the lines of the 1967 and the Eastern Jerusalem as its capital. And in the Nakba of 1948 and the following resolution stipulated the presence and the existence of two states, an Israeli and Palestinian state. This resolution is still in place. That given the Jews 50% of the prison in return of 45 to the Palestinian. Now, the Palestinian right has been diminished for 24% only. Despite that, Israel is rejecting and stalling and do not wish to execute this principle. But Egypt is going to continue to protect the legitimate right of the Palestinian people and the Jewish people alike with the Palestinian people. All are equal in population. Despite all of that, Israel wishes to gain all the Palestinian spaces and for the Palestinians to be expelled and to live in diaspora, even though the name is going to be.
Now, integrating the international community into our conversation, how is the international community responding to Egypt's call for preventing forced displacement in Gaza?
Egypt is still delivering the communications. It started in the 21st of October 2023, following 2 weeks of the war in Gaza. Egypt hosted the Cairo Peace Convention, and throughout 15 months, Egypt hosted tens of world leaders, participated tens of meetings and summits in order to put an end of the war and delivering the humanitarian aid. Egypt is still working under the Arab international umbrellas to end the conflict and to implement the principle of the two-state solution and to pursue a comprehensive settlement of the Israeli-Arab conflicts.
Now, regarding the reconstruction, how important is international collaboration for Gaza's reconstruction, and what role is Egypt playing in that effort?
Following the Israeli aggression in Gaza in May 2021, 4 years ago, Egypt was the only sole country throughout the world that decided to participate in the reconstruction of Gaza, allocated $500 through its companies to paved the roads. Unfortunately, these places were demolished by the Israeli aggressions, and now Egypt is forcibly pursued to start the process of reconstruction. People have returned from the south, never recognized from their neighborhood after being flattened to the surface of the earth by the Israelis. The lack of schools and places for work. Therefore, Egypt is working and will continue to work, mobilizing the international community to assist in construction process. But no country would contribute in the reconstruction if they expected that the war is going to be resumed. Therefore, we're working firstly to end the conflict in order for the countries to contribute in the process of reconstruction and let the people to live in a decent life and not under the tents and within refugees camps.
Newspaper managing editor, thank you so much for joining us here on Qnews and for all the information you provided us with. And now we're going to move back to Mark in the studio.
Thank you very much, Selma. Egypt reaffirms its unwavering support for Palestine, receiving over 100 Palestinians from Gaza and demonstrating firm opposition to forced displacement.
Egypt remains firm and steadfast in its support for Palestine, consistently championing the Palestinian cause on the global stage. Today, Egypt received over 100 Palestinians from the Gaza Strip through the Rafah border crossing, including 50 injured individuals and 8 set to be deported from Palestinian territories. In response, Egyptian ambulances were stationed at the Rafah crossing to transport the injured and sick from the besieged Gaza Strip to medical facilities in Egypt. Earlier, thousands of Egyptians gathered near the Rafah border in a powerful show of opposition to the displacement of Palestinians. Led by politicians, parliamentarians, and political parties, the demonstration underscored Egypt's unwavering commitment to the Palestinian cause. Waving Egyptian and Palestinian flags, protesters from all walks of life voiced their strong support for President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi's rejection of U.S. proposals to relocate Palestinians from their homeland. Chanting slogans at the Rafah crossing, demonstrators condemned any attempts to forcibly displace Palestinians, warning that such actions would destabilize the region. Their message echoed President al-Sisi's recent statement, in which he forcefully rejected displacement schemes and reaffirmed that the only viable solution is a two-state framework based on the 1967 borders in line with international law. As tensions escalate, Egypt's position remains firm. Forced displacement is not a solution. Instead, Egyptian officials stressed the urgent need for a comprehensive political resolution that respects Palestinian self-determination and paves the way for long-term regional stability. As a regional leader, Egypt continues to play a pivotal role in advocating for Palestinian rights and pursuing peace through diplomatic channels.
Now, Israeli occupation forces have carried out a series of arrests during a raid in Dura, south of El Khalil in the occupied West Bank. This came after Palestinian media reported that Israeli troops also stormed the Deir Ammar refugee camp near Ramallah, carried out arrests and raided homes in Qalqilia. Earlier, Israeli occupation forces opened fire on a Palestinian vehicle at Halhul Bridge, north of Al Khalil, detaining its occupants, though no injuries were reported. Israeli forces have stormed Nablus from the Deir Sharaf checkpoint in the occupied West Bank. Palestinian media reported that Israeli forces used tear gas and sound bombs around the Ain camp in Nablus, with explosions heard during the raid. That came as troops also entered the village of Ain Kinya near Ramallah and Balata camp in Nablus, deploying reinforcements and bulldozers. Earlier, Israeli forces blew up homes in the Tulkarm refugee camp, causing widespread destruction. For the sixth consecutive day, the Israeli occupation forces have continued their aggression on the city of Tulkarm and its camp. Israeli forces continued raiding homes, checking IDs and deploying snipers on rooftops. Search operations and ambushes target neighborhoods, forcing citizens to return home. Also, both Shahid Thabit and Isra hospitals are besieged, blocking ambulances and medical staff. And in Tulkarm camp, a tight siege continues with snipers and patrols throughout the area. The spokesperson for UN Secretary-General Stefan Dujarric has expressed deep concern over the deteriorating humanitarian situation due to Israel's ongoing operations in Jenin in the northern West Bank. Dujarric stated that these repeated Israeli actions have caused widespread destruction of homes and infrastructure, displacing nearly all residents of the Jenin refugee camp over the past 2 months. The operations, which include burning, demolishing and bulldozing Palestinian homes, continue as Israeli forces reinforce their military presence.
They discussed the ongoing situation in the eastern part of the Democratic Republic of the Congo.
And that's all for our news bulletin this hour. Here's what we've been covering. The Egyptian-Arab joint statement rejects violations of Palestinians' rights through settlement, displacement or expulsion. Egypt receives injured Palestinians at Rafah for urgent medical treatment. And Israel releases 183 Palestinian detainees today. And that's our bulletin for now. Don't forget you can follow Q News on YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram and TikTok. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more here on Q News.